الأنبياء والسيد المرسلين حبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبا القاسم محمد وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين المعصومين المظلومين وبعد ولعنة دائما على أعدائهم أجمعين إلى يوم القيامة. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. Dear brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullahi wa barakatuh. Allah the Almighty says in the Holy Quran, Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim, وَنُنَزِّلُ مِنَ الْقُرْآنِ مَا هُوَ شِفَاءٌ وَرَحْمَةٌ لِلْمُؤْمِنِينَ. Sadaqallahu al-Aliyyul Azim. He says that we have sent the Holy Book, the Quran, for the believers as a healing and mercy. This book is more than just a regular book like the rest of the books that we read. This book is a special one. This book, before it was being descended to be sent down on Laylatul Qadr, it had to go through a lot of hijabs in the heaven. Hijabs is like the veils, not literal veils. It's a symbolic and metaphoric veil. If it came down the way it was in the heavens, the earth would break, the mountains would break, everything would be in different, big mess. So it had to go through the hijab so it could be ready to be descended down to the earth. Otherwise, it's too powerful. These are the words of Allah. These are pure words, nothing but information for us to lead our lifestyle, guide us to the straight path, and be able to have a good hereafter. This is a book full of guidance. It's a book full of stories, full of teachings of how to manage life, how to manage afterlife. Whatever you want to find, you'll find in this book. One book is able to summarize everything. And that's why Allah Muhammad wa ala Muhammad. Sorry, my vocal cords today is not really good with the weather. Anyway, but this book needs somebody to explain it, because there are parts in the books, although it is perfect like Allah describes it, there is no misleading verses in it. Everything is perfect and everything is explained. But that's why He sent His Prophet, and that's why afterwards the responsibility was given to the Ma'asumeen, because there are certain verses that it doesn't fully explain to us how to do things. For example, it tells you to pray, but it doesn't tell you how to pray. For example, it tells you we have to do oblation, wudu. It tells you all these other different acts as well, but to go in detail, it doesn't tell you. And that's why a book as important and significant like the Holy Quran needs someone like the Prophet, who is the Quran itself, to be able to demonstrate all these things. And that's why we have the fiqh, the practices, and all the other stuff. So for the people that say, we only need the Quran and that's it, we don't need anything else, we don't need any more explanations on all this, it's not that easy. Not that, like I said, that the Quran doesn't have its perfection. It's got all these perfect verses, but we are not a prophet. We are not the imams. We haven't been given that divine authority or knowledge that they have about the Quran. If we were like that, obviously all we needed was the book, and that would be fine. You can read the verse, you know exactly what it means, You know the tafsir, you know the meaning, you know everything. But we are human beings, and only a ma'soom is able to have that divine power that can explain these practices and the meanings of the holy book to everyone else. And that's why then Allah sends his guides. And in the hadith of Thaqalain that we see, the Prophet says, I leave you both of these do not separate, the Quran and my Ahl al-Bayt. Hold on to them. Be firm in your faith, and you will never go astray if you hold on to these two, not just one of them. So it's important that we go with both. That's why we have then the tafsir of it, because especially Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam, from the first verse that was revealed to the Prophet, he was present even though he was a very young boy. He was present because he was pretty much raised by the Prophet. He was present, so he knew every verse, every meaning when it was revealed, what was the story behind it, how it was revealed, the location it was revealed. Amir al-Mu'mineen was the only person who knew this because he was always there. It was a beautiful story of young Imam al-Hassan alayhi salam. He would go every single day to the mosque, and whenever a verse was revealed, he would quickly run and then tell Fatima to Zahra about it. And then when Amir al-Mu'mineen would come home afterwards and tell her about, today this verse was revealed and so forth, she would say that I already know. Amir al-Mu'mineen was surprised, how would she know? She wasn't there. And she would say, well, young Imam al-Hassan, our boy, is the one that comes and tells me. So one day, Amir al-Mu'mineen decides to hide behind the wall inside the house to see what's going on. Just, no big deal. So Imam Hassan's running again one day, but at that moment, he just stops. He doesn't say anything about the verse. And Fatima's like, why didn't you tell me what verse came today in the mosque? He says, I feel a really great presence right now that I cannot say this before him. So they wouldn't speak before someone who was greater than them. And then all of a sudden, Amir al-Mu'mineen comes out and gives him a big hug and says, well done, my dear son, you are truly worthy of the succession of this religion. Just a nice little story about how even when we realize the Imams, the Prophet, all of them, they are described as the walking Quran. Like in Safin, when they raised the pieces of paper of the Qurans in order to scare the Imam Ali's army, but Imam Ali, and they were saying, Imam Ali is the walking Quran himself. These are just pieces of paper. Don't be scared. Don't shake. Don't fear. You've got the walking Quran right here. Those things, it's more better if it's in your heart and you act upon it. But it was the tactics that the enemy used, and they succeeded, obviously. So we see that the Quran itself is also known as an infallible, the 15th infallible, which is topic of the tonight. It's an infallible, and it will intercede for you on the day of judgment. How can the Quran intercede for us? The Quran intercedes by either telling Allah that I bear witness that he had this book in his home, but he never opened it. He never read a verse. He never acted upon it. He didn't try to learn it. He didn't try to educate it to other people. Or he will also say, this person, this servant of yours, he read the book every day. He took care of it so well. He carried it with him all the time. And he taught it to others, and he tried to learn everything he could about it and also act upon it. He loved this book. Similarly, that we love the Ahl al-Bayt, and we have to always remember them, learn about them. The Quran is the same. They are the same thing. So we don't want to be the ones that the Quran says on the day of judgment that the only thing that he decorated me with was dust and dirt and just left me on the top of the shelf for no reason. Because a fool is somebody who has this book in his shelf. It's the only book he might have in his shelf. And he claims that this is a pure book. It's a good book, but he doesn't read it. That's a fool. An even more fool is somebody who says this book is full of lies and full of falsehood, and he also doesn't read it. So both of them haven't read this book, yet one claims, yes, this is a holy book, the other claims this is full of lies. We can't make that claim with the Quran unless we read it. There are people who go and burn it, for example. Yes, it breaks our heart, but things like that shouldn't affect you a lot, because you've got to have the Quran in your heart. We have to learn from the Battle of Siffin, for example. There was a guy who was in prison. He took a Quran with him inside the prison. But the enemies, the soldiers, took the Quran from him away, so he doesn't recite it, he doesn't read it. And he said, you think by taking the Quran, you've actually taken it away from me? You are the fool, because I actually have all the Quran memorized. I just wanted to feel it and touch it and worship it, because when you even look at the Quran, you get blessings. That in itself is worship. So even if you have memorized some pieces of the Quran, it's still a good idea to still look at the Quran if you can every day. Even just looking is worship. There's a lot of things we find that it's not just a normal book. So far we've talked a few minutes and we've already realized this is more than just a book. There was an old man who was reading the Quran every day. Every single day he would read. And then his son came to him and he said, oh, father, why are you reading this every day? You don't even understand it. He could read but not understand the meaning. So he told his son, he said, go get that basket from the wall. He hung the basket. It was really dirty, had some charcoal stains and things like that from dust and everything else. He said, get that basket and go fill it with water and bring it back to me. The son said, well, this basket, obviously it's got holes in it. You know, the baskets that we usually used to carry, it's got bits of holes in it. You can carry maybe wood or fruits or something else that's solid that it can hold. But things like water is just going to flow out of it. He said, just do it. Just go do it. The son went, tried to fill it with water a few times. It kept spilling. And he came back to his dad. He said, you know, I can't. It keeps spilling. Tomorrow, he said to do the same thing. For a few days, this went on. But then the son came back and he said, you know, just tell me what's going on. Why are you making me do this? He said, the first day I told you about this basket, you took it. And even though you couldn't bring any water, but still the basket looked a bit more cleaner than the first time. Second day, even more. And then a few days went by, and now look at the basket. It's shining like it's new. That's what it means when you recite the Quran, even if you don't understand it. It's still doing a lot for you. It's still cleaning your heart from sins. That's one of the benefits of the Quran recitations. It's still giving you blessings, rewards. It's still helping you receive mercy of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And that's when the son understood that, oh, okay, there's more to it. He just didn't have enough information. So despite that not even understanding the Quran itself, he knew its importance. So even that's more than enough. A lot of people can't speak Arabic or can't understand, they have to try harder, but they've been taught the Quran, they can still read it. I was like that for a long time. I could read it, I could fluently read it. But meaning wise, I hadn't gotten to that part. Still, inshallah, we're trying to get better and better, all of us. And then there was a narration where Imam Ali alayhi salam was just walking by a house with some of his companions, and one of the companions heard somebody reciting inside the house. It was a beautiful recitation, so beautiful. And in his mind, he was thinking, oh wow, this man is reciting so nice. I love his recitation. All of a sudden, Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam said, don't be fooled by his recitation. First of all, the companion was shocked. How did he even know that I was thinking this? Obviously, they have ilm al-ghaib, the knowledge of the unseen, the unknown. Amir al-Mu'mineen said, don't be fooled by his recitations. One day I will show you what I mean. Battle of Safin, or Battle of Jamal came, and they were fighting and fighting and fighting. All of a sudden, Amir al-Mu'mineen calls his companion, come here, come here. This is that man that was reciting beautifully on that night that you thought was really nice and really good. And now look at him. He is from the opposite side of the army, and he's destined for hell, and he just got killed. So that's another thing. It's talking about our judgment as well. There could be somebody who cannot pronounce the words, somebody who doesn't know how to recite, but they're trying really hard, while there's someone who's reciting exceptionally well, but there is no meaning, there's nothing, there's no actions with it. It's empty. He just recites, he just knows how to recite really well. Just like when Bilal was reciting the adhan and he would say seen instead of sheen when he was saying ashhadu Allah, ashhadu Allah, because he had a lisp, he couldn't say it. But Allah accepted that as sheen. That's why we never ever judge when someone does something different, reads something different, acts differently. We don't know what position they have in front of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. And we find that the Quran is not only a book full of guidance, but it's also a book that can heal and solve all of your problems. Whatever issue you have, there's either a verse or a tafsir or a meaning or a chapter for it. You're feeling sad, you're feeling upset. The Prophet was feeling very distressed and upset at once. And that's when the chapter of Duha came down. That chapter itself, combined with Alam Nashrah, followed by that, is said that when you are feeling upset and sad and grief and distress and depression and all these other hardship that you're facing, and it's just putting you down, go read that surah. And read, if you can, with its meaning, because the meaning also has a very significant thing that Allah is talking to you. The book of the Quran is the only book that the author not only knows its reader, but is in love with its reader. Allah is in love with you when you are reading and reciting that book. Then, like I mentioned the previous nights about marriage problems, things like that, Surah At-Talaq, perfect surah, read the first few verses, even first 7 verses, read the meanings. It will turn your life around, change your mind about all those things. Even surah, you have, for example, jinn, someone possessed. It can happen, you never know. I'm just saying, but, or you feel the black magic or things like that about jinns coming in. Perfect one is Surah Al-Jinn. Surah Al-Jinn is just for that. It doesn't bring the jinns in when we read that surah. It's there not only for education and guidance, but it's there to repel them, remove that stuff, the jinns. You can read any of the verses or the chapters, but Surah Jinn specifically is for that. A lot of us avoid that surah because we are scared of it. But no, it's actually helping you a lot. And we find, we find, sorry, Surah Maryam, the first verse, which is Kaf Ha Ya Ain Sod. This is actually the whole story of Karbala with its tafsir. Because one day Amir al-Mu'mineen was in Kufa walking by, and then he saw that Lady Zainab was teaching the tafsir of Quran to the ladies. And Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam then asked, are you teaching tafsir of the Quran? She said, yes, we're learning about Surah Maryam today. Amir al-Mu'mineen wept when he heard that, and he said, let me tell you the tafsir of what these letters mean. He said, Kaf stands for Karbala. Ha stands for halakat, destruction and martyrdom. Ya stands for Yazid, the tyrant of that time. Ain stands for Atash, that stands for thirst. Sod stands for Sabr, patience. So these letters starting in the beginning of Surah Maryam is actually about the story of Karbala. And that's when people ask that the Ahl al-Bayt are not in the Quran and the Imams are not in the Quran. They all are. There's over 300 verses just directed towards Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam in the Quran. Not to mention the whole book is about him as well. There's a lot of verses just about Amir al-Mu'mineen that we can point out. These are just directly towards him. When he gave charity, the verse of Mubahila, all these things are all Amir al-Mu'mineen, his virtues. So then we also have maqamats in the Quran. Maqamats are just different styles. We think that these maqamats, we've started it recently in the past few hundred years or so, but no, there's about 8 or 9 maqamats these days, if I'm correct. 4 of these actually go back to Amir al-Mu'mineen alayhi salam. A lot of people don't like this thing where they say, oh, it's melody and it's creating like song of singing or whatever, but no, it's actually 4 of them. When you root back all the way, it's a Shia maqamat. They're the ones that have created these recitation styles, and it's beautiful. Maqam Bayat, Maqam Hijaz, all these things, they're beautiful. And you got obviously miracles in the Quran. I'm not going to mention miracles, we know it's full of it. Things that have been said thousands of years, 1400 years ago in the Quran, that they're discovering recently. There's a lot of scientific facts. Not just scientific, there's a lot of biology, geology, astronomy, and whatnot, everything. Before they discovered the Earth was round, I would say, or what shapes the planets were, or how many all these things, the galaxies, and even about aliens it mentions. Even about other creation, Allah says, I have created other things as well, but I just haven't brought them to you so you can see them. And if I wanted to, I can meet you. I can make you guys meet each other. Who knows, maybe we'll find out on Judgment Day what other creations they were. And all these creations as well, the Imams that we have, these Imams are also their Imams. We are living right now, look at the galaxies, it's full of planets and full of millions and billions, and we can't count them. So there's definitely life everywhere. Imam Sadiq has said, we're also Imams of the other creations right now. We are alive, they're also alive. They're in charge of the whole of the existence and universe. Allah has given them these tasks, these positions. You know, they're a very big deal. The Imams, the Prophet, they're a very big deal. They were there before creation. They were created before creation. I'll give you one beautiful miracle, very simple one. You guys can even go have a look at it at home. Suratul Kawthar. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. Inna a'tainaka al-kawthar. Fasalli lirabbika wanhar. Inna shaniyaka huwa al-abtar. This surah was sent, it's known to be sent to the Prophet, and it is because of Lady Fatima Zahra, salamullahi alayha. If you look at the surah, I want you tonight to count all the dots that the surah have. All the dots. How many dots it has? 18 dots. How old was Fatima Zahra when she was martyred? 18 years old. This is simple thing. This is just simple stuff. I'm trying to tell you, this is the lowest indication towards the Ahlul Bayt. If you really look deep into it, that's what happens. So it's a miracle in itself that we have the Quran. Teach your kids, learn it yourself, act upon it, take care of it, so that on the day of judgment, we can be proudly standing and the Quran will be able to say, yes, they took care of me just like you ordered them, Ya Allah. And Quran is so important that when we mentioned that it was one of the 4 things that Imam al-Hussein alayhi salam did on the eve of Ashura. He recited Quran, but that was not the only time he did it. After he was martyred and they put his head to the spear and they were carrying it through Kufa and Sham, the narration state that he could be heard reciting the Quran. Imam al-Hussein's head was reciting the Quran. Famous narration, we know this. To do justice, I have to recite that one verse he's done. My throat is not that well, I'll try inshallah. Bismillahir Rahmanir Rahim. أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا أم حسبت أن أصحاب الكهف والرقيم كانوا من آياتنا عجبا صدق الله العلي العظيم. السلام على الحسين وعلى علي بن الحسين وعلى أولاد الحسين وعلى أصحاب الحسين. اللهم كن لوليك الحجة ابن الحسن صلواتك عليه وعلى آبائه في هذه الساعة وفي كل ساعة وليا وحافظا وقاعدا وناصرا ودليلا وعينا حتى تسكنه أرضك طوعا وتمتعه فيها طويلا برحمتك يا أرحم الراحمين. صل على محمد وآل محمد.